What's going on YouTube? It is Luke Waters back into the video, and today I'm making a video I've wanted to make for a very long time. Now before buying a Caprice, there's a lot of misconceptions about these cars. Now before I bought this car, I watched a lot of different reviews on it, and a lot of them are misleading in certain ways. I feel like a lot of the people who made reviews on these cars literally just sat in them for like 20 minutes, made a review, and slapped it on the internet. So today I'm going to talk about the 5 things I love about my Chevy Caprice Ppv and the 5 things I absolutely hate about my Chevy Caprice. To start things off, we'll talk about the 5 things I hate about my Caprice Ppv the most. Now granted, when I'm talking about all this stuff, I'm not talking about any of the aftermarket stuff I put on it. This is just straight from the factory, how these cars come, and the 5 things I do not like about this car. Starting on at number 5, we're going to talk about the rubber floors. Now when these cars came from factory, they were supposed to be made for police use only. They weren't made for civilians, so they came with rubber floors. Which at first you might think is not so bad, but the longer you drive it, the more you're in it, the actual harder it is to keep it clean, believe it or not. I used to think that keeping these rubber floors clean was super easy, but turns out it collects more dirt, collects more dust. I really wish this car had carpet. You can put in carpet from a G8 from this, but it doesn't sit right, the back seat doesn't line up. You gotta get like 2 carpets, you gotta accept it. It doesn't go into the dash, it just looks like crap. Number 4 is the center console and the fact that there isn't one. Now I'm not gonna say all of them don't come with center consoles. The 9C3 does come with one, but that's a much more expensive price tag, and this is obviously the 9C1 model, but there's no center consoles whatsoever. You basically just get this big piece of metal that sits in the middle right by the shifter. This comes in handy as a lunch tray, but over time it gets kind of old. I actually ended up building my own center console. I have not added cup holders to it yet, which I would like to do eventually, which was like 90% of the reason why I built a center console was to have cup holders, but for some reason I'm being lazy and putting it off, and I have not put cup holders in it for whatever reason, so maybe I'll do a video on that very soon. Number 3 is the factory brakes and wheels. And I know this is kind of one of those things where it's like, well, you can't really dog on GM for putting steel wheels on an already super heavy car, but yes I can. These steel wheels they weigh as much as a truck tire. I mean, they are so heavy. They could have done something so much lighter with these cars. Granted, the heaviness, I mean, it's more durable for potholes and whatnot, but literally the best mod you can do right away to one of these is to change your wheels. You'll save so much weight and so much rotational mass. And the stock brakes, from my experience, they're crap. Car stopped, but it didn't stop very well. And when I took off my factory brakes to put on the G8 brakes, I did not see any excessive wear in the pads or the rotor. It just did not want to stop, and it was kind of unsettling to drive. And then when they got hot, it would like vibrate like crazy. So maybe I should have just changed rotors and pads and tried that first, but I'm really happy with the G8 brakes I have now. At number 2, it is the rear side of view. Now what I mean by that is, just in general, trying to back this thing up is such a pain in the ass. There's no backup cameras. Those mirrors are tiny. You can hardly see out of them. So when you back up, okay, you pull up to the car meet and you got this clapped out Caprice looking all cool. You're trying to back into this spot and you can't see where you're going. You got people looking at you. It's awkward. It's terrible. Not a fan of the line of sights in this car. I kind of wish to either make the back window bigger or these side mirrors bigger and it fix the problem. But as it comes as now, not very helpful or useful at all. This car really needed a backup camera from factory. The number 1 thing, and honestly the most disappointing thing about this car is the radio. I mean, this radio, you literally have 0 options for anything when it comes to GPS, when it comes to Bluetooth, when it comes to just user interference. There's nothing. There's no options. You literally cannot do anything with these radios. You got this nice touch screen, but that's all it is. I mean, you have the same capabilities in this radio as you do in an 87 Corolla. Just not, that was one of the things that ticked me off. And get this, you can't put a GPS on it. You can do Bluetooth, you can do the aux cord, but it's like $300 to unlock that stuff. And if I'm gonna spend $300 to not get any of that, I'll rather just use my phone, just use a transmitter for the radio. It's so much more simple. Those are the 5 things I do not like about my Caprice Ppv. Now we're gonna talk about the 5 things I love about this car. So starting at number 5 is the space. There is so much space in this car to sit in the back seat. You can fit comfortably 5 people in this car, guarantee you. And you can fit large people in the back. I actually had someone who was 7 foot tall sit in the back seat with my seat all the way back, and they had about 4 inches of knee room. So if you plan on going on trips or just taking this on adventures, this is a great car to do it with because there's plenty of room. You won't get uncomfortable. Coming in at number 4, we have the front seats. Now, I know I'm kind of picking on the interior for the things I like about this car. Well, I mean, you sit in cars, so that's basically what you're going to love the most about them is the interiors. These seats kind of look bland and basic, but I can tell you what, I have back problems. I've taken road trips I've taken a road trip in an Audi A4, my Buick Regal, this, Ford Edge, all kinds of different vehicles I've driven in for long periods of time. This is the only car I've ridden in where I do not have back problems when I get out. The lumbar support is fantastic. The way you sit in the seat, and it coddles you just perfectly, is so nice. And you might look at it and be like, that's the most basic, boring seat I've ever seen, but when you sit down in it, pure luxury. And a lot of people will swap out these seats for G8 seats, and I don't like the G8 seats. They remind me of Grand Prix seats. I'm not knocking on the G8. It's a nice car, nice interior. I just think these seats are much better than the G8 seats. Coming in at number 3 is the niche, or the uniqueness of the vehicle. This is the kind of car you can pull up to a Corvette show, Cars and Coffee, nighttime meet. Basically, you can take this car anywhere and fit in perfectly because it's a car that you just do not see every day. Granted, when you pull up to most meets, it's like, oh yeah, I like your Impala, or hey, it's a nice clean Malibu, which it is neither of those. But it's always exciting to see people's reactions when they see a car they have not seen for the first time. You tell them it's a Caprice, and they go, oh, I thought they discontinued the Caprice in 1997, or whenever they stopped making Caprices. And it kind of blows their mind. They kind of get on the Google and start looking stuff up, and it's just kind of interesting to see some people's reactions, because a lot of people actually don't believe me that this is a Caprice. I've had multiple people argue with me saying that this is an Impala, then I'm just screwing with them, but no, it's in fact Caprice. Coming in at number 2, I love the way this big giant boat handles down the road. So the best vehicle I can compare this to is the Pontiac G8, and from factory we get the stiffer struts. I believe the springs are different, wider tires. I want to say it's a touch wider than a G8. I'm not sure, don't hold me against that. But going down the road in this thing is so smooth, it's so nice, it bites the road very, very well. It takes corners like there's no tomorrow. I mean, it's built to do that. It's a cop car. It's built to be driven hard and take hard corners and hard stops. And it just feels so nice. Like going on the highway, you can be cruising at 75 and it feels like you're on a cloud. It is by far the most comfortable car I've ever owned, and I love taking it on road trips. I like just cruising around town in it. It's comfy, it's nice, it just goes down the road so straight and smooth. And now finally, the number one thing, the main reason why I bought this car, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. I think this is why most people buy this car. It's gotta be the drivetrain. So what do you really get when you buy one of these PPVs? Well, you get the holy grail. An LS2 bottom end, LS3 top end, L77 E85 drinking machine. This is probably the sole reason why the Caprice is even around. If these came with V6s, nobody would want to buy one of these, but the fact that it comes with an LS engine from the factory is so nice. And handling all that power to the rear wheels is a 6L80 transmission, a very bulletproof tranny. I've had zero problems with it. But hey, this car's been super reliable to me. It's been fun to drive, and it's been an amazing car to build. I wish I could have had more of the build process in this car. For those of you who don't know, it has a BTR Stage 4 cam, 3200 stall, Manzo headers, solo catback, LSA injectors, Walbro 455 fuel pump, Rotofab cold air intake. But like I said, a lot of the reviews you see on this car online, I think have a lot of misleading and misinformation. So before you pick up one of these cars, make sure this is something that suits you. Obviously, if you're a fan of luxury, this is not going to be the vehicle for you. If you want something that's got good GPS, leather seats, heated seats, cooled seats, all the bells and whistles that normal cars come with nowadays, unfortunately, you're going to be cut very short with the Caprice Ppv because it does not come with any of those. But if you want a good weekend cruiser, a very affordable project, and something that comes with an LS, I mean, with an LS, your mods are pretty much, I mean, endless. You can do anything to these things. Then pick one of these up. It's been a great car to me. I have no regrets buying this car. I literally drove it home from Chicago the day I bought it, and I was just smiling the entire time. It has been such a fun car to me. Been such a great car to me. There you have it, guys. That's my top 5 things I love and hate about my Chevy Caprice Ppv. Take what I say into consideration, but don't let it sway your opinion. If you want to pick up one of these vehicles, do it. Go for it. If you have any more questions about the Caprice, or wait till and if you have any more questions about the Caprice Ppv, or maybe you want to buy one, if you have any more questions about the Caprice Ppv, feel free to leave a comment on this video down below. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. In the waters, and I'll see you guys in the next video.